with regard to the consent.
Just to pause for a moment there, General. So it was not addressed to you, this letter?
No, it was not addressed to me.
Can I just make a correction on your statement at paragraph 93, Chair? Where it says on 5 August 2024, Senior Prosecutor Ronel Kutsia addressed a letter to me and Brigadier Khopane as the provincial head. That was actually to General Mbuso Khumalo.
Indeed, Commissioners, that is correct. I'm not sure whether it's an omission or it's a typo or it's a mistaken identity.
Or a ballistics typo.
We have that. We have that as Khumalo's, that we are confused sometimes, and the statement it's written, or it reads like the letter was addressed to me, followed by Brigadier Khopane, whereas the Khumalo, that is one of the addressees, is Major General Mbuso Khumalo, who is the Deputy Provincial Commissioner, Gauteng Crime Detection.
Thank you. So what was the purpose of this letter?
The purpose of the letter was for the Senior State Prosecutor to share, firstly, to share with the management of South African Police at all levels regarding the risks that the investigating officers were facing in terms of their safety as a result of this case that they were investigating and the Senior State Prosecutor was prosecuting. So the letter is listing the reasons that made the Senior State Prosecutor to believe that the lives of the investigating officers were at risk. So it was recommending or requesting an agent assistance by powers that be at provincial as well as national level to ensure that proper measures are put in place to protect both the investigation as well as the investigating officers.
Thank you. Perhaps you could read paragraph 16 of the prosecutor's letter, bearing in mind that it refers to witness A and B.
Reading paragraph
16, yes.
Reading paragraph 16 on record, it reads, you are requested to urgently arrange for the safeguarding of especially witness A and B. There is a real danger that their lives are in extreme danger, and these organized criminals will do everything in their ability to try and destroy evidence against them and or to seriously derail the trial. It has just now become so much easier with Tau, referring to the former warrant officer who was part of the arrested hitmen, having unlimited access to technology and his syndicate friends and family.
And to be clear for the record, witness A and B that you referred to are the two witnesses who have given evidence in this commission.
That is correct. During my testimony, Commissioners, I'll be referring to them either as investigating officers or as witness A and B.
Thank you. So after this letter is sent by the prosecutor, at paragraph 97, you say that on 8 August, Colonel Ntuli was instructed to conduct a threat and risk assessment. Can you first begin by explaining who Colonel Ntuli is and who issued that instruction?
Thank you, Commissioners. The normal standard operational procedure within our crime intelligence environment, because the threat and risk assessment are one of our responsibilities. If we can refer back to the addresses where the letter was sent to, there is no reflection of anyone who is within crime intelligence. So the requester will send the letter to the immediate commander of the member or the members involved, as well as the provincial and national top management. So in this case, after the letter was received by the Provincial Commissioner Gauteng, he then channeled it to the provincial head of crime intelligence in Gauteng province, which is Major General Likalakala, who then assigned that investigation of this threat and risk to a Colonel Ntuli, who is the commander of counterintelligence investigations within Gauteng province, who was then instructed by not one of the addresses, but by the Major General Likalakala, the provincial head of crime intelligence, to conduct that investigation.
What does that investigation involve?
Without maybe exposing the whole methodology, which is mostly of covert nature, I will say it looks at the individual as well as the all types of security around an individual or a subject of investigation, starting from where the individual lives to where the individual works and to the lifestyle itself, as well as all other people that are interacting with the subject of investigation. It's a process where after all those are identified and the information collected, there will be a thorough analysis that will be checking the facts collected against the threats and vulnerabilities as identified then from the requester, to determine the likelihood of that, because by that time it is looked at as a potential risk. That analysis will be done then to determine the likelihood or the unlikelihood of that potential risk then to materialize. That is what, in short, in brief, the process is all about.
Thank you, General. And so what was the finding of this particular investigation, threat and risk assessment?
The finding of this whole investigation on the threat and risk assessment against the investigators on this case was found to be, the risk level was found to be high, which is the highest level of risk assessment.
And if I can just ask you to turn to page 162 of the annexures bundle. So that's SDK 16. 162. Is this the affidavit by the colonel who did the TRA?
That is correct, Commissioners. it happened that during a bail application of one of the accused, the need came for the threat and risk assessment that was done to be used or included then in the state case. But then because the threat and risk assessment report itself, it's a classified document with all the details that would not want it to be made public. Then the decision was taken that the Colonel Ntuli, who was doing the physical threat and risk assessment, submits the statement that confirms without details the threat and risk assessment that he conducted.
So when did he conclude his TRA? When was it signed?
The threat and risk assessment itself was concluded during August, and it was signed off on the 16th of August.
So the fact that this affidavit was signed on the 17th of May 2025 is not a reflection of when the TRA was conducted, but because this was for the purposes of the bail application, it was at a later date.
Yes, Commissioners, that's what I was explaining, that the affidavit was done way after the threat and risk assessment was concluded. It was just meant for bail opposition.
Thanks. So, General, the next two paragraphs summarize what witnesses A and B were to come and provide evidence onto this commission, and we don't need to traverse that. It's there in your statement, and the witnesses have now testified. Can we please go to paragraph 101 of your statement, because this is where you say, this is where you became involved. After the threat and risk assessment was concluded, you were approached for assistance. Can you explain that, please? Who approached you and when?
Thank you, Commissioners. As it's also part of our standard operational procedures, the provincial head will receive the final, according to their level, the final threat and risk assessment report before signing it off, and then the provincial head will go through the threat and risk assessment, including the recommendations that are included, and then if it happens that the provincial head is of the opinion that that particular threat and risk assessment need to be escalated at national level for their views and also for their concurrence, depending. That happens mainly with the high-profile threat and risk assessment and also those that are rating the risk at the highest level. So that is what happened in this case. My office was approached by the provincial head of crime intelligence in Gauteng with a view of briefing me and presenting this draft threat and risk assessment for my concurrence and my input.
And what type of input would you have provided?
After a thorough briefing and also going through the draft threat and risk assessment, there were lots of red flags that pointed towards being a very serious, different threat and risk assessment. In the threat and risk assessment, even from the request by the senior state prosecutor, there were reference made to the syndicate knowing that the syndicate, to sustain its activities, it needs the strong support of the criminal justice system, which is then also inclusive of South African Police Service. So looking at the request and looking at the draft report, then my office then was not comfortable with the recommendations that were included in that TRA. Hence, then the inputs that had to be included involves the registration of a counterintelligence investigation project.
Sorry to interrupt you, General. You described the TRA, or perhaps more the situation than the TRA, as open quote, different, close quote. What do you mean by that?
Thank you, Commissioner. The reference to different is most of the threat and risk assessment requests and investigations that will do, it will be mainly where the potential enemy, if I may put it in a layman's language, of that particular subject of investigation, it's someone that will have a plan to neutralize as soon as possible. So the use of unusual or different refers to the emphasis that was put from the request to the TRA itself that was talking to a syndicate. Now, a syndicate meant that we need to identify all other potential risk areas other than to concentrate on, for an example, other than to concentrate on the name that was mentioned in the request of a warrant officer, Dow. So we had to take it further and define the syndicate. So as then we are able, now, because the request and the TRA were making reference to a warrant officer Dow and the hit squad or hit men that were neutralized by then, it was going to be looked at as a usual TRA. But because of the emphasis and evidence of the involvement of a syndicate that has not yet been identified, that's why then we looked at it differently and we use it different as a weight.
And that was your call?
That was my call.
And so what did you recommend?
Then, as I've reflected, that I recommended that we register a counterintelligence investigation, which was going to focus mainly on the identification of the whole syndicate, because now to have countermeasures or protective measures that are directed towards Dow and those that are arrested already was not going to be effective according to my assessment. That is why then the decision to register the counterintelligence investigation to identify more of those that might be involved in the syndicate. In order to protect, as I reflected during my initial testimony, that a counterintelligence investigation is there to protect the operations of the South African Police Service. Now, the operations, they include both the operators or the operator as well as the activities. In this case, the investigation itself, that it becomes a success.
So was it through those investigations that you were able to identify Mr. Molefe as the suspect?
That is very correct. It was through the counter-intelligence investigation. That was now, maybe before I get straight to the answer of the question by the senior counsel, let me explain the second most important recommendation that I had included in the initial draft TRA presented to me by the provincial head of crime intelligence, Gauteng. We also recommended that after the counterintelligence investigation is registered, because we registered it as a project, after it has been registered, it had to be meshed with the Gauteng organized crime investigation. That was as a result of that, the TRA was as a result of, because it was going to feed the investigation itself. That was the birth of now what we have been referring to in this commission as Gauteng Organized Crime Investigation, GCI Ops, which is the combination of both counterintelligence investigations and organized crime investigation of Gauteng.
Thank you, General. I'm sorry to interrupt your evidence, but Chair, it's come to my attention that some of the annexures and contents of the witness's statement is being projected in public. I wasn't aware because it doesn't come up on the screens in front of me at all. But as a result, information that should not be public is being made public. And may I ask that there's no projection unless I request it?
May we take an adjournment, a brief adjournment, and I would like for us to meet the people who do the projection outside immediately, please.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Let's
Chair.
adjourn.